It's Carney in a landslide, and the Liberals have their new leader. This is Now You Know. I'm Rob Snow.
Going beyond the headlines.
Now You Know with Rob Snow on News Radio.
For Liberals, it was a night of goodbyes, past glory, and hope for the future. For Liberals. Yeah, that's it for the Liberal Party leadership race, and in the end, it wasn't even close. Former central banker Mark Carney made easy work of the other candidates, capturing almost 86% of the vote on his way to becoming the next leader of the Liberal Party of Canada. Chrystia Freeland, the former Minister of Finance, came in a distant second place, just 11,000 votes. Liberal MP Karina Gould placed third. Quebec businessman and former Liberal MP Frank Baylis finished fourth. That means Mark Carney is now Prime Minister designate. He'll be sworn in sometime soon by the Governor General and become Canada's 24th Prime Minister. Yesterday's leadership convention in Ottawa was also an opportunity for Liberals to hear Justin Trudeau say goodbye again. The Prime Minister's farewell speech recounted how he helped lift the Liberals from being the third party to a majority government back in 2015.
You remember where we were 15 years ago with just 35 seats in the House. You remember our ups and downs and all those times that people counted us out, all the times they said our party was on its last breath. Like all Canadians, it's when you try to count us out that we Liberals show our true mettle.
Trudeau also framed part of his speech around Canadian patriotism and the threat from Donald Trump.
This is a nation-defining moment. Democracy is not a given. Freedom is not a given. Even Canada is not a given. None of those happen by accident. None of them will continue without effort. It takes courage. It takes sacrifice. It takes hope and hard work.
Also delivering a lengthy speech was former Liberal Prime Minister Jean Chrétien, the little guy from Shawinigan, now 91 years old, called on all governments in Canada to fight back against the Trump tariffs and even seemed to endorse building the Energy East pipeline.
Governments have absolutely right in retaliating as they have, and I congratulate all of them. If it is necessary, the governments altogether can consider going further, anything the Americans where it really hurts, by imposing an export tax on oil, gas, potash, steel, aluminum, and electricity. And we'll use that money to build infrastructure that are needed in Canada. For example, to build a pipeline for natural gas from Alberta to Quebec.
And then it was time to hear from the big winner of the night. Mark Carney promised to cancel the consumer carbon tax and stop the planned increase to the capital gains inclusion rate. And he also mentioned hockey.
We didn't ask for this fight. We didn't ask for this fight. But Canadians are always ready when someone else drops the gloves. So the Americans, they should make no mistake, in trade as in hockey, Canada will win.
And with an election campaign now on the horizon, Mark Carney also took a shot at his next target, the leader of the Conservative Party, Pierre Poilievre.
Donald Trump is trying to weaken our economy. But there's someone else who, if he succeeds, will weaken our economy. It's Pierre Poilievre. Pierre Poilievre just doesn't get it. He is the type of lifelong politician and I've seen this type around the world, a lifelong politician who worships at the altar of the free market despite never having made a payroll himself.
Pierre Poilievre wasn't anywhere near Ottawa. He was about a 6-hour drive away, hosting a large rally of his own in London, Ontario, where he was warning about electing the Liberals 4 times in a row.
And now our Liberal friends, after they've caused all this damage, are going to pull a sneaky trick tonight. They're going to try to get elected for a 4th term. By replacing Justin Trudeau with his economic advisor, Mark Carney. Carney's advice drove up taxes, housing costs, and food prices, while he personally profited from moving billions of dollars and thousands of jobs out of Canada to the United States. Working for Trudeau, Carney made Canada weaker and poorer.
Still no word on when Mark Carney will actually be sworn in as Prime Minister. After he is sworn in, he will have to appoint a new cabinet, and then those new cabinet ministers will have to be sworn in as well. And then, well, Parliament could be back in session on March 24th with the end of prorogation, or Prime Minister Mark Carney could ask the Governor General to drop the writ, and we would be into a federal election campaign. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. This is News Radio.
Now You Know with Rob Snow continues on News Radio.
U.S. President Donald Trump is still singing the praises of his tariff plan. Last week, he promised there could be tariffs as soon as today on Canadian dairy products and Canadian lumber. No official announcement on that so far today. Tariffs on Canadian-made steel and aluminum are supposed to come into effect on Wednesday, and what Trump calls reciprocal tariffs are supposed to come into force April 2nd. Speaking with news reporters on Air Force One, Trump claimed his tariff plan will make America rich.
Oh, I think the tariffs are going to be the greatest thing we've ever done as a country. It's going to make our country rich again. We have many companies, as you know, auto companies are opening up plants now. We've had 4 or 5 announced already, but many more are coming. And we're basically going to take back the money, a lot of the money that we've given away over many decades. We've lost our jobs, we've lost our factories. We've lost 90,000 factories since the beginning of NAFTA. It's not that long ago. 90,000 factories, think of that. And we're going to get them back, and they're coming back, and they're coming back in records. Look at what happened with the big chip company, the biggest in the world, by far the most powerful chip company in the world, from Taiwan, and they're going in with $200 billion of money, and they're going to build something that's going to give us 35-40% of the chip market in one company. No, it's going to bring it back, and I think it's going to make us bring us to a level that we've never had before.
Trump was also asked if he was worried if his tariff plan might trigger a recession. Of course not.
All I know is this: we're going to take in hundreds of billions of dollars in tariffs, and we're going to become so rich, you're not going to know where to spend all that money. I'm telling you, you just watch. We're going to have jobs, we're going to have open factories, it's going to be great, and the plane is landing, and thank you for a lot of good questions.
In addition to his remarks on Air Force One, Donald Trump also appeared on some of the Sunday cable news talk shows. He was asked, for example, by Maria Bartiromo of Fox, why he paused the tariffs on Mexico and Canada until April 2nd.
Because I wanted to help Mexico and Canada to a certain extent. We're a big country, and they do a lot of their business with us, whereas in our case, it's much less significant. We do very little with Canada by comparison. And I wanted to help the American car makers until April 2nd. April 2nd, it becomes all reciprocal. What they charge us, we charge them. It's a big deal, but what they charge us, we charge them. But this is short term, and I felt that for the good of the American car makers and the MCA, you know, the USMCA, that's Mexico, Canada. I thought it would be a fair thing to do. And so I gave them a little bit of a break for this short period of time.
When Trump was pressed for clarity on his tariff policy, he claimed globalists have been ripping off the United States for years.
The globalists, the big globalists, have been ripping off the United States. They've been taking money away from the United States. And all we're doing is getting some of it back. And we're going to treat our country fairly. This country has been ripped off from every nation in the world, every company outside in the world. We've been ripped off at levels never seen before. And all we're going to do is get it back. We're going to get a lot of it back. We're not going to let people take advantage of us anymore.
Also hitting up the Sunday talk shows in the U.S., Trump's Commerce Secretary, the Wall Street billionaire Howard Lutnick. He was on NBC's Meet the Press and was back to pounding the drum about fentanyl.
You have to remember, this is a drug-related issue. You've got fentanyl pouring into this country, killing 75,000 Americans, autopsied. And the president, thinks it's many, many more, because multiples more. So it's important for the president to talk to the leaders of both Canada and Mexico, get them to shut the border, shut the fentanyl coming into the country. And of course he's going to be on the phone with them. And of course he's going to talk to them. And he is a deal maker, the greatest deal maker in the world. So he makes better deals. He's gotten the border closed. He's gotten fentanyl to be shut down. He put tariffs on China, who makes the precursors. This is the way you run the country. You shut the border. You get our neighbors to do their job. It's not only us who has to do their job. Why are our neighbors who live and breathe off our economy not taking care of America?
The Trump tariff plan continues to roil stock markets. Lots of red across the board. The bears are out today on both Wall Street and Bay Street. The Dow Jones Industrial Average right now down 1 1/3%, down 552 points for the Dow Jones Industrial Average. The loss is even steeper for the NASDAQ, which is down 3.5% right now. That's a loss of more than 640 points. In Toronto, the TSX main index down 1.3% today. That's a loss of 322 points for the TSX main index, a loss of 322 points. And the Canadian dollar last traded 69.27 cents US. That's down 29 basis points on the day. Also of note, Bitcoin having a rough day for Bitcoin, down 4.5%, back below $80,000 US. And crude oil futures are down to $66.50 US a barrel. That's the West Texas future price, $66.50 US a barrel. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. This is News Radio.
There is no question Rob won't get answered.
Now You Know with Rob Snow continues
On News Radio.
I'm here with David Smith. Trump tariffs, still a huge story. Last week, Ontario Premier Doug Ford suggested that as long as the tariff threat remains in place, he would consider imposing a 25% surcharge on all the electricity exports that Ontario sends to the United States. So Premier Ford met the news media today. David, what did he say?
Yeah, he was at the Ontario Legislature at Queen's Park in Toronto announcing this 25% surcharge will be moving forward. The technical term is a surcharge. You can think of it like a tariff. It's essentially a tariff on energy that goes from Ontario into northern U.S. states. And that's not all. Doug Ford also again threatened to cut off the electricity flow entirely if the U.S. continues with his trade war.
We will apply maximum pressure to maximize our leverage. That's why today we're moving forward with a 25% surcharge on electricity exports. For the 1.5 million American homes and businesses that Ontario powers, homes and businesses in Minnesota, Michigan, and New York. This surcharge will cost families and businesses in these states up to $400,000 each and every single day. On an average, this will add around $100 per month to the bills of hardworking Americans. Let me be clear. I will not hesitate to increase this charge. If necessary, if the United States escalates, I will not hesitate to shut the electricity off completely. Believe me when I say I do not want to do this. I feel terrible for the American people because it's not the American people who started this trade war. It's one person who's responsible. That's President Trump.
But of course, the first question that reporters had for the premier is, what is the timeline on that? When would you actually cut off that electricity? Would it be April 2nd, when the rest of the tariffs are supposed to come in? This is what Ontario Premier Doug Ford had to say on the timeline for that threat to cut off exports of electricity.
Let's just see how this rolls out. You know, he changes his mind literally every single day. So I just wouldn't want to give you an exact date, but make no mistake about it. If he continues to attack our province, our country, taking jobs, families' paychecks, food off their table until they can't pay rent, I will do whatever it takes to maximize the pain against the American, and I hate saying Americans because it's not them, against President Trump. You know, so many Americans I speak to and the elected officials and even the 3 governors I've talked to recently, you know, I start off with apologizing we're in this position, that we have to do this. And they fully understand. They do not agree with President Trump. Republicans do not agree, at least the ones I speak to, do not agree with President Trump, but they're too scared to go out there and say it publicly. It's a shame. We have to put an end to this.
Now, another thing Doug Ford was asked about, it's kind of interesting how this works. In the wintertime, Ontario sends lots of electricity into the U.S. because we're not using as much of it. In the summertime, when you get lots of surges for heat waves, air conditioning, things like that, Ontario is often importing some electricity to help manage the peak demand. And in Ontario, our grid is set up so that peak demand is fed by natural gas generation. Doug Ford was asked about the possibility of us not having enough generating capacity if we don't get American electricity coming in, and he brought that issue back to the concept of natural gas pipelines.
You know, I'm very confident we have enough natural gas, and we're going to build on that. Do you know who's to be blamed for not having gas? All the elected officials for the last 20 years. They need to look in the mirror and ask, why didn't we build Energy East pipelines? Why didn't we go put another pipeline west? Why aren't we going north? This is where the federal government, no matter who gets elected, needs to look at national infrastructure projects that we'll never have to rely on anyone again in the world. I said that during the pandemic about the N95 masks and other items, and now we're self-sufficient. We can build anything here in Canada, and let's not be so reliant on the United States for our crude oil going down to the U.S.
So there you have it. Ontario responds. Doug Ford retaliates, a 25% surcharge on all electricity going to America.
All right, David, thank you for that update. When we come back, it'll be our Newsday panel and talk a lot about the Liberal Party leadership now that it's over. Prime Minister-designate Mark Carney. And when is the election? All that coming up. You're on News Radio.
You have questions.
Now you know with Rob Snow has the answers.
On News Radio, the Newsday panel.
And the gang's all here. Time for our Newsday panel on a Monday. Tim Powers is chair of Summa Strategies and managing director at Abacus Data. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Nick McRoberts is here. He's with Hill and Knowlton. How are you, Nick?
I'm good, Rob. How are you?
That's good. So a Prince Edward Islander, a Newfoundlander, and a Cape Bretoner all walk into a Liberal leadership convention. No.
They all leave drunk.
Yeah, I wasn't there myself. Of course, the Briar was on yesterday, so I had better things to do.
Oh, you want to rub it in, eh? You rub it into the Newfie. Yes.
Hurry hard. But Nick, Tim, were you there yesterday at the convention?
Briar? No. Nor was I at the Liberal. No. I was at neither event. Event.
All right. Well, Nick actually was there, so he can kind of give us an eyewitness account. What was the buzz? What was the mood? Give us a sense of it, Nick.
Yeah, I think it was quite optimistic, and I think really leaning into that renewed sense of patriotism that we've all felt. I will note that in conversations that I had, there's definitely tense feeling towards the global situation that presents itself, and the animosity that we felt from the Trump administration, but as well in that a sense of clear direction in the party and everyone's on the same side now, and let's go get this done. It was a more optimistic Liberal get together than I've been at over the last few months, for sure.
Okay. So it wasn't even close. I mean, Mark Carney got 86% of the vote. I mean, when you saw that number, 86% of the vote, 85 point something. I mean, what was your reaction to that, Nick? Were you surprised by that? That it was that much?
Yeah, well, there was an audible gasp in the room, and definitely a blowout, and what everyone was thinking. But if we rewind a little bit and look at the bigger picture, $4.5 million raised in 2 months is a movement, and when you combine that along with this crisis that we're facing existentially as a country, I'm not surprised that Liberals came together and thought, you know what, we need a definitive answer and to show Canadians that we are united behind one person. And that showed in the results.
What was your reaction to the way things played out yesterday, Tim? I mean, when you saw that figure, 85 point something % for Mark Carney, what did you think?
Well, I remembered what I've been often told in politics, that in this case it's a she. She who wields the knife shall not wear the crown. And certainly that was the case for Chrystia Freeland. She had to be embarrassed to a certain degree that she ended up as low as she did. She couldn't even crack double digits. That's a pretty sizable walloping that happened there. So, and then the number was large for Carney, so he has control of the party, and I think that's what he wants going into this. And I just pick up on where Nick said, the people I've talked to the Liberals I talked to do feel better about where they are. Somebody who I had coffee with this morning, who was at the Liberal Christmas party in December, said it was like going to a wake, whereas yesterday was like a birth. So they made biological history. They've died and come back in 3 months, Rob.
Right. Well, it is the holy season for some. Look, let's pick up on this though. I mean, what happened to Chrystia Freeland's campaign? You think about it, does any of this happen in the Liberal Party without Chrystia Freeland quitting, and then, the way she quit by really sticking it to Justin Trudeau on the way out the door? I remember in the days following that, it was, she was feted, like, speaking truth to power. And you mentioned that Liberal Christmas party and the accounts of Chrystia Freeland being the most popular one at the Christmas party, and how people were going up and thanking her and wanted to get selfies with Chrystia Freeland. And then it's like, David texted me and he's like, oh my gosh, Chrystia Freeland only got 11,000 votes. Like 11,000 votes in a Liberal leadership. Someone who's been there from the beginning. I mean, 2013, one of the big scores for Justin Trudeau in 2013 was to get Chrystia Freeland to run for the Liberal Party, and yet it just did not materialize for her in this campaign. What went wrong for her, Nick?
I think that Liberals looked at Mark Carney as, a bit of a savior and as a bit of a recruited candidate, if you could say that.
Okay.
They saw Chrystia Freeland as, to Tim's point, the one who held the knife. And where Mark kind of had this air around him of, I'll do my duty if I'm so called upon. Whereas Chrystia came across as this opportunist. Okay. And when Liberals are looking for unity and someone to rally around, I think she didn't do enough to separate herself from that label of an opportunist, and she also didn't do enough to separate herself from the government. She was in a hard position. I almost applaud her for getting the amount of votes she did, just because of how tricky a place she was in terms of having to critique the government but own her wins.
What do you think? Sorry. What do you think, Tim, about what went wrong with the Freeland campaign?
Well, I think you saw it in day one, right? She misread the room. People were happy to have her do the takedown. They weren't happy to be leader. I think she just was, she was sidelined by being too close to Justin Trudeau, and Mark Carney, for purposes of the Liberal Party, branded himself as an agent of change. Chrystia Freeland, as Justin Trudeau said in his sort of damning faint praise, she was by my side for 10 years. That probably killed her.
Okay, we'll be right back. We'll talk about Mark Carney. How will Mark Carney be different from Justin Trudeau, if at all?
No question goes unasked or unanswered.
Now You Know with Rob Snow returns on News Radio.
It's our Newsday panel with Nick McRoberts from Hill and Knowlton and from Summa Strategies, Tim Powers. So, Nick, you're the former Liberal staffer. Tim and I cannot boast of such credentials. So I must ask you, how is Mark Carney going to be different from Justin Trudeau? His opponents in the Conservative side are going to say, just like Justin 2.0, Trudeau 2.0. How is he going to be different from Justin Trudeau, do you think?
Yeah, I don't think he could be farther, and I don't mean that in a pejorative sense. I think with Trudeau, we got someone who, was able to craft a narrative in his speeches and talk about kind of the story behind the policy, so to speak.
Okay.
With Carney, I think what we're getting is someone who is numbers focused, who is pragmatic in terms of their communication and clear cut. I've seen it reported as a boring way of speaking, but I think it's a sense of calm and a sense of we've got this, and here are all the policy reasons why. Here are the economic levers of how we're going to do it. And I think that's appealing when we're faced with such confusion. We're going into a period where we need stability and that calm, as I mentioned, which will be an important foil to what we're seeing from the Conservatives.
Okay, all right. How do you think Mark Carney could be different from Justin Trudeau, Tim Powers?
Well, certainly the Conservatives, as you said, are not going to try and give him that space. You saw him make some moves yesterday in that regard. Of course, he had with Justin Trudeau standing there, and the look on Justin Trudeau's face kind of said it all, announcing he was going to kill the consumer carbon tax and also the capital gains that were brought. So he's going to have to do things like that. Whether that will be believable to the broad public, I mean, he, as was just said, in style they're different. I don't know if he'll be judged on that. But a lot of the Conservative approach is, and you heard it, I think, in Poilievre's comments today, now going to be about a fourth term. They're generally the same. Mark Carney was Justin Trudeau's economic advisor for 5 years. So perhaps Mark Carney's greatest early political skill or failure may be in demarcating that line if he can.
Okay. I mean, Justin Trudeau was accused of taking the party to the left. I have often said it's really hard to distinguish Justin Trudeau's Liberal Party from the New Democrats, to be honest with you. There's a reason they were able to hook up like that and work together. I don't know if Mark Carney is kind of the same, if he's the same politically. What kind of liberal is Mark Carney? Is he more of what we call a blue liberal, like a Paul Martin kind of liberal? I was reading today that the person in charge of his side of the transition is actually more of a progressive conservative from the Jean Charest camp. I mean, just what kind of liberal do liberals get with Mark Carney? What do you know, Nick?
When the announcement came of the result last night, one of the first texts I got was "Centrists are back,"
Centrists are back. Okay.
And I think that's a bit of the narrative here, is that we're moving back as a party to that center. You might describe it, Rob, as you did, as kind of a blue liberal. And I think part of that is a reaction to what's happening in the world, right? If we get increased defense spending, increased infrastructure investment, lower taxes, that's a very traditional, kind of center right policy move.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Carney and the Liberals are going to advertise it as such. We need to still keep speaking as progressives, and there was a lot of talk yesterday in the room about being progressives and the good social policies that we've seen. But the realities of this world that we're faced with are going to force the party to move back into that, area of fiscal responsibility and long-term investment.
Is that how you see it, Tim?
I think he's to be defined, right? And I think that's why you're seeing them push for an election sooner rather than later. He wants to do the definition before the Conservatives do it to him. So it will be a work in progress.
Do you expect an early election, Tim? That he is going to pull the plug on the government himself? Go to the Governor General and say, let's go?
Rob, you're not good at predictions. Not always my strong suit, but I'm pretty sure after St. Patrick's Day, because who would be cruel enough to call an election on that
especially
day?
Not somebody, especially somebody named
with
Carney.
Irish citizenship.
Yeah,
yes,
right.
Exactly. But I suspect one will get called sometime next week.
Sometime next week. Is that what you think is going to happen, Nick? Sometime next week?
Yeah, I'm hearing an election call sometime next week with an E-Day, April 28th or May 5th.
Okay. All right. That's interesting. Well, we'll be right back.
Critical thinking is not dead.
Now you know with Rob Snow.
Returns on News Radio.
We're back with Tim Powers. He's the chair of Summa Strategies, also managing director at Abacus Data. And Nick McRoberts is with us as well from Hill and Knowlton. Let's turn our attention to hypothetical scenarios as we're all watching the results come in 6 weeks, 7 weeks from now, and it's election night. Given the way the polls look right now, what do you think of this scenario? Could this happen, in your opinion? The Conservative Party wins the most seats. Conservative Party even wins the popular vote, but loses the election because it would not be able to carry the support of the House, enjoy the confidence of the House. And in fact, the Liberals will win enough seats and they'll be able to govern again with the support of the other parties in a minority government situation. Could you foresee something like that happening, Tim Powers?
It could, but it'd be unusual. I mean, this question seems to get raised every time the Conservatives are on the edge of winning. It was certainly there before when, that happened to Stephen Harper in 2006. He was on the edge there. But look, I would be very surprised. I think Canadian Convention has been the party with the most seats, gets the first chance to form.
Have a crack at it?
Have a crack at it, yeah.
What do you think, Nick?
Yeah, the coalition started getting floated around a little bit in conversations I was having yesterday, but okay. I tend to agree with Tim. I don't know how tenable that is. I think from a Liberal point of view, right, the feeling yesterday was we've got a shot at government. I think the realistic hope here is let's hold the Conservatives to a minority or a slim minority.
Okay. Okay.
And kind of take it, to take it back to the coalition thing. I don't think maybe a formal coalition, but just make it so it's vote by vote for the Conservatives.
Okay. So very quickly then, Mark Carney has helped to resurrect Liberal fortunes. What does he do to try and maintain that momentum or even build on that momentum, Nick?
Well, he's got to show, that he's a new form of leadership, as we were talking about earlier in the show.
Be the agent of change, right?
He's got to be the agent of change, while also leaning on, we've done this before with Donald Trump. He's done this before with the central banks. This is a crisis that is best served by the Liberals. There's a towing the line here of change versus experience.
Okay. Not that Mark Carney's approaching you for advice, Nick, or Tim, but, if you were to offer maybe a word of advice, how does he keep this going, the Liberal momentum?
We sat together at a hockey game in January, and he asked me what I thought about whether he should run. He clearly didn't take my advice then. I said, "You're a good fellow, don't." So I guarantee you he won't be taking my advice. But look, I think he needs to keep making it about Trump and making the argument that he's a bit different and that he has the skill set to win, though I don't think he'll be given the easiest of rides trying to make that case.
Okay. Wow. It's all over. That's it for the Liberal Party leadership. Now the big fight will start soon enough in the federal election campaign. Look forward to your insight throughout all of it. Thank you, everyone, for today. Great to hear from you.
Take care. Bye. Bye.
Tim Powers from Summa Strategies, Nick McRoberts from Hill and Knowlton, and Talkback is just ahead. Coming up, federal politics on tap today. Mark Carney, Pierre Poilievre, Justin Trudeau, they're all in the news. We're going to ask you about all three of them.
It's time to talk back.
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now.
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
Welcome to Talkback. Brand new week, 2 hours of debate and discussion on the big issues of the day. And to start the week, we thought it would be only natural to talk about politics today, given everything that happened this weekend and everything that's still ahead. Mark Carney, Pierre Poilievre, Justin Trudeau, they're all in the news today. And as we just heard from our experts before the news, in the next week or so, we could be into a federal election campaign. So let's talk about the many moving parts of our federal politics today. Our call-in line is 1-833-668-2577. That's 1-833-668-2577. Here are some questions to kind of get the conversation going to start the week. Mark Carney, new leader of the Liberal Party, officially known as Prime Minister Designate for now. Hasn't been sworn in just yet, but that could happen fairly soon. I mean, he cruised to victory in the Liberal leadership race. It wasn't even close. He won with almost 86% of the vote. Can you imagine? So Liberal supporters very clearly think he is the best person for the job right now. And he is replacing a prime minister in Justin Trudeau that up until very recently, let's face it, was not very popular and was going to have a hard time helping the Liberals win again. That would be nearly impossible, the polls were saying, if Mr. Trudeau had stuck around. But now it would seem that Mark Carney has given the Liberals a lot of hope that they could even win another election, at least a minority government. So here's a question for you about Mark Carney. Do you view Mark Carney as a big change from Justin Trudeau? Or do you view Mark Carney as Trudeau 2.0? That's what some of his critics are calling him on the conservative side. Just like Justin, he's Trudeau 2.0. Do you view Mark Carney as a big change from Justin Trudeau, or is Mark Carney more of the same old, same old? What would you say? That's one question that we have for you today. Here's another one. Pierre Poilievre. You would think that, think about this, if he doesn't win this election, after his Conservative Party had a big lead in the polls for almost 2 years, that would go down as one of the biggest flops in political history. And some people might say it's because of his style. It's because of the way he practices politics. A common criticism that I've heard over the years from callers like you about Pierre Poilievre is that they don't like his style. They think he comes across as too mean, too much of an attack dog. Some people don't like the way he uses nicknames and other one-liners to describe his opponents. Things like carbon tax Carney or sellout Singh or just like Justin. They don't like when he calls people wackos, those kinds of things. Some people don't like that. They don't like the way he picks fights with the media. Or I've heard this, he's all slogans, just slogans, no substance. Or they say he's a career politician. Mark Carney said that yesterday. He's a career politician with no real life experience. I'm sure you've heard all of this over the years. Very common criticisms that come up about Pierre Poilievre, that his style can be a bit of a turnoff. I just want your honest opinion of the man. Good or bad? What do you think about how Pierre Poilievre conducts himself? Is he, as his critics claim, too mean? Does he try to be too cute with the one-liners? Is he too divisive? What about this idea, career politician, no real-world experience? Or if you don't agree with those criticisms and think Pierre Poilievre is the right person for the job, why do you think that? 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. And finally, Justin Trudeau, 23rd Prime Minister of Canada, 7th longest-serving Prime Minister in Canadian history. Not long for the job now. Mark Carney will soon replace him in that role. And Prime Minister Trudeau will be former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Justin Trudeau was Prime Minister of this country for about 9 years and 4 months. So lots of material to work with when it comes to assessing Justin Trudeau's time in office. And let's face it, most prime ministers, after that long in office, they aren't very popular when they exit. Almost all politicians are more popular at the beginning than they ever are at the end. But now that Prime Minister Trudeau's time is coming to an end, maybe it's hours, maybe it's days, we thought we would ask you, what will you remember about Justin Trudeau's time as Prime Minister? Also on that, the good, the bad, and the ugly. You have anything nice to say about Justin Trudeau's time as Prime Minister? Don't want it to be a pile-on, but what will you remember about Justin Trudeau's time as Prime Minister of Canada? I think he would like to be remembered as the guy who dealt with Trump the first time around, someone who was also committed to reconciliation with First Nations, someone who was fiercely committed to the environment. He always claimed he was a proud feminist. And on policy, he always touted the Canada Child Benefit, claiming it lifted millions of Canadian children out of poverty. That's what I think some of the things he would point to, some of the things his supporters would likely point out. But what about you? After 9 years and 4 months of Justin Trudeau as Prime Minister of Canada, what will you remember about Trudeau and his time leading this country? Plenty of material to work with to start the week, and certainly a very interesting few weeks ahead in Canadian politics, a week that could include a federal election campaign featuring a new Liberal leader.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Gabbing about federal politics today. 3 different angles. Do you think Mark Carney's a big change from Justin Trudeau? What would you say? What do you think about Pierre Poilievre's style of politics? Is he, as his critics claim, too mean, too divisive, too cute sometimes with nicknames, one-liners, and slogans? And after 9 years and 4 months of Justin Trudeau as Prime Minister of Canada, what will you remember about Justin Trudeau's time as Prime Minister of Canada? Feel free to weigh in on any or all of those. Let's go to Siva in Calgary. Hello, Siva.
Hello, hi, how are you?
I'm good, Siva. Thank you. What's your opinion?
Thank you, yeah. So the first question is whether Mark Carney is same as Trudeau. I don't think so, because right now in the morning I was analyzing the data from 2016 on construction activities in Canada. The federal and the province, they just grow so much time, only 13%, like 2% average. But the federal government, 55%, they are pumping in so much money. I feel, in my opinion, Mark Carney will be different in terms of spending. That's number one.
Okay.
Number two, Pierre Poilievre. He's good he's good as a politician, as an opposition politician, biting at people, chewing at apples and all those things. But personal opinion, so I don't think he's a prime minister material, the Canada.
Why do you say that? Why do you say that?
See, I just calculated it. 85 years, since 1900, 85 years has been liberal rule. Only 40 years, it's 2:1 ratio, conservatives. I guess Canadian standards, the expectations of Canadians are very high. As a country, not as, I'm from Calgary, I know about Alberta, okay? We are not, I don't think Canadians are people who like brashness, like how you put it, the style how Poilievre conducts politics.
The style, okay. Right.
We have Westminster parliamentary style, right? So that's style and substance and all those things. So,
all right, interesting. You think he's too abrasive or aggressive? Maybe not nice enough.
Politics is all about posturing, right? How you present yourself, and I guess Poilievre wants to harvest that type of image. He wants to be. That's why it will be very interesting to see him and Trump. You don't want him and Trump. They say like poles repel in magnetism, right?
Okay. All right. Okay.
Lastly, about
do you have a comment on what you will remember Justin Trudeau for as Prime Minister?
That was about my the last thing. Justin Trudeau, he was just a very aggressive liberal. I think he was so desperate all these years just to prove himself that he's a very good leader to liberals. You remember those pictures that he took with naked ladies? You remember the LGBTQ and all these things, rallies and, and then the Emergency Act and putting up a show and all these things. But, as a person coming from a different political requirements, I'm a visible minority, immigrant, blah, blah, and all those things, I'm not pulling the cards, but I'm saying he did certain things good like child fit and things. So I guess, we can give him a little bit of leeway and that's fine. Let's just forget about it.
Kind of a mixed bag, though. A mixed bag, you would say, Siva. Yeah. Okay, mixed bag. All right, going to move along. Thank you, Siva. Thank you. We got off to a good start here. Bye. Let's go to Rudy is in Cambridge. Hello, Rudy. Hi, Rudy.
Yes, good day.
Hi, Rudy.
How are you today? I'd like to say that
I'm good.
That's good. It's a nice Monday. It's nice out here. 12 degrees. Good. That's great. Now,
you'll take that. Beats the alternative. Yeah.
The thing I remember Justin Trudeau about is when he first got in, or his campaign, Harper turned the age that you get your pension at up from 65 to 67. And Trudeau put it back down to 65.
That was for the old age security. Yeah. That was for old age security. Are you there, Rudy? I think we lost Rudy. Let's try Adam in Halifax then. We have time to take Adam's call. Hi, Adam.
Hey, how you doing today, Rob?
I'm good, Adam. Thank you.
Yeah, good. I'll just touch on all of them, I guess, really quickly.
Sure.
I'm not a fan of Mark Carney. I mean, people say Pierre Poilievre is a career politician, but I find Mark Carney is not a politician at all. So what does he know about politics? I mean, I know he's good with money, but I mean, so, and the guy's worth like $7 million. I mean, he seems like kind of an elitist guy. He moved his business out of America. He worked for Goldman Sachs. It's just, I don't know. I just don't. I don't trust him.
Don't trust him.
Pierre Poilievre.
Okay. What do you think about his style, Pierre Poilievre?
I don't like it at all. I
like it at all.
Huge fan of. No, I was a huge fan of his, and I actually started, telling my wife about 6 months ago that I really think his style is going to start turning people off. I mean, if he loses this election, it's going to be 100% because of his style. People don't like it. I don't like the name calling. I don't find it abrasive. I just find it immature, to be honest. And
immature.
To me, it's
Okay.
just not what it's just not what a leader does. You know.
What will you remember Justin Trudeau
for?
What will you remember Justin Trudeau for?
Oh, I'm going to try not to remember him, Rob. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to try my hardest, really, to just not remember that whole 9 years, whatever that looks like. But yeah, I just don't like him at all. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, very interesting. Good call today from Halifax, Adam. Thank you. I'm Rob Snow. It's Talkback on a Monday. Federal politics, big story today. Lots of changes happening in this country. Election campaign on the horizon. Join the discussion here on Talkback on News.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Talking about the federal political scene today. Is Mark Carney a big change from Justin Trudeau or more of the same? What do you think about Pierre Poilievre's style of politics? How would you describe that? And after 9 years and 4 months as Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau's time in that job is almost done. What will you remember about Justin Trudeau's time as Prime Minister of this country? Let's go to Paul in Cambridge. Hello, Paul. Hello, Paul.
Oh, hi. I didn't hear you say my name.
That's okay.
Friday, we talked about the firearms announcements and whatnot that the Liberals have made. Just a little while before that, my son had sent me a text message saying this is only to fire up the wedge issues for guns for the election that starts by month's end. And then he went on to say, certainly we'll talk about abortions and that Pierre is in the business of selling coat hangers. And after our discussion, you said, hey, it's only a wedge issue. Next week, we're going to hear about abortions. And my son calls me up and he says, is that Now You Know guy monitoring my text messages or what?
It's just so painful. Just so obvious. Yeah. But let me look. Justin Trudeau is on his way out the door. Mark Carney's the new man in town. Is he a big change, do you think?
Okay, people may have not noticed this, but there was a little zipper on the back of Trudeau's head, went from the top of his head all the way down to his butt. And the other day, what they did was they undid that zipper, and they shoveled all the crap out of there and put it into a new skin, did up the zipper, and ta-da, we've got Mark Carney.
Okay, so more of the same. You would say more of the same. Now, look.
More of the same, only worse.
Okay. Only worse. Okay.
I don't know if it could get worse.
Okay. What do you think of Pierre Poilievre's style of politics?
No BS. He tells it like it is.
No BS. Tells it like it is. Okay.
Yeah, people didn't like the way he talks to the reporters. Well, when you ask a loaded question to try and get a gotcha moment there, and he calls you out on it, that's the way it should be.
Okay, so you would say he's a straight shooter. Very quickly, because our time is tight, what are you going to remember about 9 years and 4 months of Justin Trudeau as Prime Minister? What's going to stand out for you? What will you remember?
How far Canada has dropped worldwide ever since Trudeau took over, but we're going to turn it around.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Paul. Good to hear from you today. Federal politics is the topic of the day. Mark Carney, Pierre Poilievre, Justin Trudeau, they're all in the news. We want your take. We could be in an election campaign, maybe a week and a half from now. So share your thoughts. It's all we're going to talk about for a while, I think. 1-833-668-2577. I'm Rob Snow. It's Talkback on a Monday, and this is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
We've been asking questions about federal politics today with Mark Carney becoming the new leader of the Liberal Party. Do you see that as a big change from Justin Trudeau? Also, Pierre Poilievre, what do you think about his style of politics? Some of his critics will say he's too aggressive, too abrasive. What about you? And what is Justin Trudeau's legacy? Justin Trudeau not long for the job now, governed the country for 9 years and 4 months. What's his legacy? What will you remember him for? 1-833-668-2577. Michael in Cape Breton. Hello, Michael.
Hi, how you doing today?
I'm good, Michael.
As far as Mark Carney goes, before you can lead, you got to serve and do your time in the trenches. He did his time in the trenches and made himself wealthy. Now he's coming back here. He's only a novice. He got no political experience. So, no to Mark Carney. To Pierre Poilievre.
Okay, just a second before you move on to Pierre Poilievre. Do you see Mark Carney as a big change from Justin Trudeau? He's saying, I represent change. Do you view it that way?
No, one pup to the other pup. Mark Carney made a statement in a speech there the other night. He's going to fight for the pipeline and bring it as far as Quebec. What about the Maritimes? Big mistake, Marco, and I will forget it. And there were too many shadowy figures from the past as the Trudeau government wandering around that hall looking to be appointed to the Senate. Until they get on this, I'm voting for John McCain.
Okay. So what do you think about Pierre Poilievre's style?
Well, he never changed in 20 years. So, he started off as a whippersnapper, a pop off of Stephen Harper. And what did he accomplish? What did he say? What did he stand for? Hello, nothing. Nothing. All the social values we achieved in this country. He certainly voted against them in the House of Commons in the Blue Book. So, until then, this election that's coming, it can't come fast enough. I'll vote as an informed voter. I'm voting for Jagmeet Singh.
Yes. You mentioned that. All well and good. What will you remember Justin Trudeau for?
Justin Trudeau did exactly what they did for the last 150 years. They just rode the train for as long as they could and he got out. He did some good things. Can't write him off completely, but he could only go so far because the ones that control our national government, none of them get elected. They're all in the back rooms, but they're all rich.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. So that's a common line from Mr. Singh as well. That when push comes to shove, he'll.
Me.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. And you said twice during our conversation you're voting NDP. That's fine, Michael. That's fine. That's what elections are for. Dallas up next in Cambridge. Thanks for calling. Dallas. Hi there, Dallas.
How you doing today?
I'm good, Dallas. Do you view Mark Carney as a big change from Justin Trudeau?
Well, in my opinion, nobody really knows. Let's say because honestly, like I spoke about on the Mike Farwell show, he really displayed no platform or anything. So I don't know if he is or not. Quite honestly, in the back of my mind, I want to say no, he isn't.
Okay.
Only because, and I say this for a reason, only because he, for lack of better ways of putting it, he was handpicked.
Okay.
That's my opinion on that side of it.
Yep, fair enough. What do you think about Pierre Poilievre and the way he practices politics? What do you think about the man's style? Lots being made of his style.
Well, Mr. Poilievre, I have to say, needs to change his slogan.
Okay, all right.
It's getting old.
Okay.
That's all we've heard out of him. Well, axe to tax and blah, blah, blah. Okay, fair enough. But he really hasn't come across with anything either. I prefer him over the Liberals, quite frankly.
You do? Okay. All right. Okay.
Albeit, having said that, if I can just say this, Mr. Chrétien's speech last night, which I heard this morning on the radio, when Mr. Chrétien and the finance minister at the time was in power,
yeah,
this country was on a pretty solid footing.
Okay, all right.
And
yeah, they did the heavy lifting in the mid-'90s, certainly to slay the deficit. Now, they cut a lot of things, made a lot of cuts to government. I don't know, it'd be a tough sell to cut 45,000 federal government jobs right now, lay off 8,000 people from the CBC, cut transfers to the provinces, take a surplus out of the EI fund, take a surplus out of the pension fund. I don't know how Canadians would stand for that now. They did in the mid-'90s.
Listen, don't get me wrong on that side of it. I was no fan of any of that, but they had to do what they had to do.
And they did it. Okay, let me ask you this, because our time is tight. Justin Trudeau, what will you remember Justin Trudeau for as Prime Minister of Canada?
Nothing but a drama teacher.
Nothing but a drama
teacher. That's all I got to say about that.
All right. Well, you have said it. Thank you, Dallas, for your call today. We'll be right back. It's Monday's Talkback, federal politics. Big story in this country after the conclusion of the Liberal Party's leadership race. We now have a Prime Minister designate in this country. His name is Mark Carney.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Just to give you an update on what's happening in the financial markets right now, I'll get back to your calls in just a second as we talk about federal politics today. But the selling is really starting to intensify on both Wall Street and Bay Street. They really don't like the tariff situation. The Dow right now is approaching a 2% loss for the day. I mean, the Dow Jones Industrial Average down 775 points. 775 points. Picking up where it left off last week. It's even worse for the NASDAQ. Sizable loss for the NASDAQ. Right now, down better than 4% for the NASDAQ. Loss of 750 points. In Toronto, down about 1.8% on the day. That's a loss of 440 points. Our dollar lower today, 69.27 US. That's a loss of 30 basis points. Not many places to hide today. Oil prices are down. Gold prices are down. The Bitcoins. David, poor fellow there with your Bitcoin reserve. Bitcoin back below 79,000 US. Now down 4.5% on the day. Yeah. Remember when it was at 100,000? Remember when it was at 100,000? That was a distant memory. But still $78,000 last trade on the Bitcoin. Just watching the markets for you. It's one angle to everything that's going on in politics these days. That has more to do with Trump and tariffs than anything else. In this country, new leader of the Liberal Party. No surprise, Mark Carney in a landslide. But is he a big change from Justin Trudeau? Also asking, what do you think about Pierre Poilievre's style of politics coming into focus now with an election campaign on the horizon? In 9 years and 4 months, Justin Trudeau was Prime Minister of Canada. What will you remember about that time? Scott in Kitchener. Thanks for calling, Scott. You're up next. Go ahead, Scott.
Hey, how are you, Rob?
I'm good, Scott. I'm good. Mark Carney.
Excellent.
What do you think about Mark Carney?
Well, to be honest with you, I think it's going to be more of the same. He's a different look. Comes from a little bit of a different background, but he is an elitist, big-time money maker, and I think he was selected already obviously he was selected by Trudeau. Trudeau's been trying to get him to enter politics for a while now, and it's just, again, traveling down the Trudeau road of...
Okay.
I don't
So you think it's kind of status quo for the Liberals? Some kind of status quo for the Liberals?
Just a new face to the party to stop the hemorrhage.
What do you think about Pierre Poilievre's style of politics? Is he too abrasive, too aggressive? These kinds of criticisms come up all the time about him.
You know what? The Conservatives have my vote. I like his common sense thinking. Like, it's you look around you. Look around Ontario, Kitchener, Canada. you have to have some sort of responsibility and some sort of restraint. You can't just keep giving and giving and giving. There's only so much that can be given out. This ideology, this social justice crusade over the last 9 years, and him giving reporters a hard time. Well, you know what? When they ask questions, trying to paint him in a corner, I'm happy he does that. Like, I wouldn't want people doing that to me. And it's wait until they call the election here, and then let him present his platform. He's touched a little bit already on it, and you have to. I don't understand how anybody can support any.
Hear the man out. You're saying hear the man out. Okay.
Oh my gosh!
So,
he hasn't had a chance to really do anything yet. Let him do his thing. We sat around for 9 years watching our country go to garbage.
Well, that's quite a segue, because I was going to ask you, 9 years and 4 months Justin Trudeau was Prime Minister. What will you remember about Justin Trudeau's time as Prime Minister of Canada? Sounds like you'd rather forget it.
Let's see. The lack of justice toward the Liberal Party and himself, the scandals, one after the other, after the other, after the other. Nothing happens. The Rabel issue, it's just pick your poison. It's just terrible. All this social justice crap that doesn't really mean anything in the state of, well, it does, I guess, but not.
Right. But you thought he was too woke,
that's why everybody
so to
thinks
speak.
Poilievre's
Too woke.
so abrasive, because he speaks his mind. Right. Well, you can't speak your mind in many circles today because of the way you're painted by these liberals, whoever else, as being racist or as being mean or a bigot or.
Okay. Interesting. Thank you, Scott. Good to hear from you today. Kyle in Listowel up next. We'll have to move pretty fast here. Do you think Mark Carney is a big change from Justin Trudeau, Kyle?
No. I'll tell you that.
No?
He just seems like another Trudeau.
Okay.
He says he's going to get rid of the carbon tax. He's going to bring it in. The second thing is I'll be quick, is Pierre Poilievre. I think he's a good guy. I think he might have to change his platform a little bit just to go after Mark Carney now, because if people are starting to get kind of tired of him, change it up a little bit, wouldn't hurt, but he still got my vote. And the third thing is what will I remember Justin Trudeau for? That he had nice hair. Thanks, Rob. Have a good day, my friend.
That's it. Okay. All right. Okay. Short and sweet from Kyle in Listowel today, and plenty of time to take your call.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Mark Carney, Pierre Poilievre, Justin Trudeau, all in the news. We're talking about all three of them today. Federal politics to start the week. Gary in Calgary. Hello, Gary. Thanks for calling, Gary.
Hi, how are you today?
Hello, Gary. I'm good, Gary. Do you think Mark Carney's a big change from Justin Trudeau?
Do I think that he's a big change from
Justin Trudeau?
Justin Trudeau? Well,
yeah.
He's a lot more educated. He went from high school, he went to Harvard, and then he went overseas to Oxford.
Yes,
and he is a big change in the fact that he's well known around the world for his economics and his leadership that way.
Yeah.
He's pretty much accepted
all good
in
points.
Europe and England.
Yeah.
He doesn't have the charisma that Justin does.
Okay.
And your next.
So you would see it as a change. Yeah, you would see it as a change.
Yeah, it would be a change. He's a little more outspoken than Justin. Justin should have spoke up more.
Okay. What do you think about the way Pierre Poilievre does politics? What do you think of his style?
Well, Pierre Poilievre, he went straight into politics. He went from high school, living at Mama's house and eating at her table, to being groomed by Preston Manning at the conservative grooming school. And from there, he got hired on with Stephen Harper. So he spent his whole life in politics, sucking up the taxpayers' money, working on his public pension. So all he knows is politics and how to bulldog it, He's gone and hired a couple people from Trump's campaign working for him now.
I don't,
he's much like
I don't
Trump.
know about that. I haven't heard that. I haven't heard
quite
that.
lined up with the Alberta Conservatives, The corporate Alberta Conservatives.
Well, he is. He's from Alberta. He's from Alberta.
We have the president of the corporate society there, the president from the lobbyists as a premier now. So we have corporate government in Alberta. You know?
Okay, so you don't think much of him, right? You don't think much of the man.
No,
let me ask you this finally. Let me ask you finally, just because we're a little tight on time. Career politician.
After
Yeah.
Justin Trudeau got out of school, he went off to be a school teacher. He didn't
Mhm.
need the money. He wasn't groveling for money. He was trying to do some good. No one gives him much credit for it. Now, what did you want to say about what
will you remember
Trudeau
about
for?
his time as prime minister? What will you remember him for?
Well, what I'll remember him for is that he's the first prime minister since his father who did anything good for oil. Nobody wants to mention it too much, but besides supporting everybody with the COVID checks, he also put a pipeline into the West Coast.
Yeah,
The
yeah. Well,
conservatives-
after
conservatives
after
have been
instituting all
in power
kinds of
for 50
policies
years.
that drove that company out, that drove that company
Yeah,
away,
yeah.
and and
Yeah, well,
Energy
the
East. I
conservatives
mean,
been in
that
power.
company that was building Energy East also gave up on that project. He doesn't
the
deserve any credit
conservatives-
for
the
building a
conservatives have
pipeline.
been in power.
A $5 billion pipeline that turned out to be $33 billion. All right, Gary, I
The
got you. I got
conservatives-
you. I want to fit in one more call here. Let's go to Jordan is in Cambridge. Hi, Jordan.
Hello.
Yeah,
How
hi,
are
Jordan. Do you see? I'm good. Do you see Mark Carney as a big change from Justin Trudeau?
I don't. I see him as
You don't? Okay.
I see him as a world economic puppet as well as Justin was, and I think that, it'll just cause more issues and money coming from our tax dollars going to other places and not benefiting Canadians.
Okay. What do you think about Pierre Poilievre and the way he does politics?
I like his straightforward, no roundabout.
He's straightforward. Okay.
I like that he puts things in layman's terms that a regular guy like me can understand. He doesn't try to confuse people with his fancy wording, and he just says it how it is.
Okay. What about the previous caller's point? He's a career politician. Does that bother you at all?
I don't, because Trudeau was a career politician. He learned everything from his father.
Well, as the previous caller pointed out, he was a teacher for a while. What will you remember about Justin Trudeau as Prime Minister of Canada?
I'll remember him creating division through Canadians, families, friends, forcing people to do things that they didn't feel comfortable doing, emptying our pockets, making our society poorer, not helping the homeless crisis, driving the drugs up in our country.
All right. Other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how did you like the show? We'll be right back with hour number 2.
It's time to talk back.
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now.
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
We're looking at federal politics from 3 angles today, given all the latest developments. Mark Carney captured the Liberal leadership race yesterday in resounding fashion, almost 86% of the vote. Chrystia Freeland, my goodness, just 11,000 votes. Can you imagine? But do you view Mark Carney as a big change from Justin Trudeau? Is Mark Carney more of the same? Some of Mark Carney's critics would say he's Justin 2.0. Just want to know what you think. Another question revolves around the political style of Pierre Poilievre. Some of his critics say he's too mean, too divisive. They don't like the nicknames, the one-liners, the slogans. What do you think about the way Pierre Poilievre practices politics? And what's the legacy of Justin Trudeau, in your opinion? What will you remember about his time as Prime Minister of Canada? More than 9 years in that job. 7th longest serving Prime Minister in Canadian history at 9 years and 4 months as of today. So a lot to chew on. Let's go to Mississauga. Bernie's up in Mississauga. Hi there, Bernie. Hello, Bernie. Are you with me, Bernie? Nope, doesn't sound like Bernie's there. Let's go to Carlos, calling from Ottawa. Hello, Carlos.
Good afternoon, Mr. Snow.
Yeah, hi, Carlos. How are you? Good to hear from
Very
you.
well, sir.
That's
Thank you,
good.
sir.
That's
Thanks
good.
for taking my call.
You're welcome. What do you think of Mark Carney? Think he's a big change from Justin Trudeau?
No, I don't think he's a huge change at all. The guy's been advising Trudeau for the last 5 years, and he's got, Katie Telford and Gerald Butts advising him. So, no, I think it's exactly like you said, Justin 2.0.
Okay. So kind of like meet the new boss, same as the old boss.
Yeah, I think his narrative is gonna be that he's different, but I think if he actually ends up winning and becoming the prime minister, I think he'll backtrack and it'll be more of the same, just ridiculous spending and just economic issues that we've had for the last 9 years are just going to continue and exasperate.
Okay, all right. What do you think about Pierre Poilievre's style?
Personally, I don't mind it. I think after 9 years of virtue signaling, I kind of like somebody that says it the way it is and doesn't beat around the bush. But I can see how some people don't necessarily like that straightforward, way of speaking. But personally, I kind of find it refreshing. But
all right.
I think
what about the nicknames? Like carbon tax Carney and sellout Singh and calling people wackos, and one of the callers said he thought it was immature. What about that?
Again, I'm not a communications guy, but I think that
doesn't bother you.
No, it doesn't bother me, and I think it
doesn't bother you.
He's got to do something to make it stick, and I think it works because we're obviously talking about it. So,
sure, great material for a talk show. Okay, Prime Minister Trudeau. Think about that. 9 years in power. What will you remember about Justin Trudeau's time as Prime Minister of Canada?
I remember him being one of the most corrupt prime ministers I've ever heard of. I think the laundry list is too long to mention. Let's not forget the reason why Parliament was stalled for 2 months was their government's unwillingness to provide documentation after claiming to be the most transparent government. That 9 years ago, that obviously hasn't happened. SNC Lavalin, hopefully Democracy Watch's criminal case against him goes somewhere, and he'll truly be remembered as one of the most corrupt PMs ever.
Okay, you think he was corrupt? Okay, thank you. Good to hear from you, Carlos. The good, the bad, and the ugly on all three there. We have some lines available. 1-833-668-2577. Welcome to hour number 2 of Talkback. And remember, if you've never called before, just mention that to David. He's screening the calls today, and we will make your call a priority, and we'd love to hear from you. Mark in Calgary, thanks for calling. Mark, you're up next. Mark, hi there.
How you doing?
I'm good, Mark. I'm good.
Thanks for taking
my call. What do you think about your Oh, I appreciate that. I really appreciate that. Mark Carney, do you think that's a big change from Justin Trudeau?
I think it will be a bit of a change, but I do believe that he has basically been handpicked by Trudeau in order to carry out Trudeau's agenda with all the political BS that's been going on for the past 4 or 5 years now. I feel like everything changed during COVID, right?
Okay.
And I feel like that's going to be more to come with Carney. From what I heard of him and the research I've done, I'm not a big fan. I think he's Justin 2.0, maybe worse.
Okay, he is, he says, backtracking on some of the Trudeau policies, like the consumer carbon tax, for example. He says he's going to cancel that. It was Justin Trudeau's plan to raise the inclusion rate for the capital gains tax. Carney says he's not going to do that, backtracking on that as well. So, those are two things that...
But about the carbon tax, from what I've been researching, Carney has been his advisor for the past 4 or 5 years. So he's basically the guy telling Trudeau to do a lot of these carbon taxes and all these other political taxes. So in my opinion, Carney is probably going to be worse than Trudeau.
Ooh, okay.
And that's sad because to me, Canada has fallen so hard since Trudeau took office, and it's going to be hard to repair. And if people think Carney's going to make that better, I guess we'll see. But in my opinion, I think he's going to make it worse.
Okay. What about Pierre Poilievre? What do you think of his style? Pierre Poilievre, is he too abrasive, too aggressive? Some have called him immature. All slogans, no substance. You hear this stuff. Career politician, no real life experience. What about any of this? Bother you at all?
Well, I do like the way he speaks. I do like the way he stands up for Canadians, especially. I haven't seen that in a very long time. He calls a spade, and I'm all for that. I watch him in these press conferences, and he calls out the reporters because they're constantly just spewing out the biased agenda for the Liberals, and it's brutal. Somebody needed to say something, and he did. And people don't like it when you're in their face like that, but it has to be said. Otherwise, it just gets swept under the carpet. So I believe he's bringing things up that he will actually, hopefully, take care of and actually be a man of his word and take care of the problems that he said he's going to take care of. If he does that would be great. As far as that goes, we don't know. He does have my vote, though, for sure. 100%.
All right. Okay, we got to wrap it up there. That's our time for this segment of Talkback. It's hour number 2. The call-in line 1-833-668-2577. Join the discussion on Talkback here on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Talking about Mark Carney today, now that he's the new Liberal leader, soon to be Prime Minister. We're talking about Pierre Poilievre, who desperately wants to be Prime Minister, and the man who is leaving the job as Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau. Let's get right back to it here. Neil in Calgary. Hello, Neil.
Hello.
Yeah. Hi, Neil. Hello. How are you today?
Good. How are you?
I'm good, Neil. Do you think Mark Carney's a big change from Justin Trudeau?
Yeah, I think he's a really big change. I think we went from a leader who doesn't have any vision to a bureaucrat who doesn't have any vision. So
okay, all right, okay, not exactly a ringing endorsement, Neil, but okay.
No.
Okay.
I honestly think it's a step backward for the Liberal Party. I don't know why they elected him as their leader, but
oh, really?
I guess.
Why do you say that? It's a step back. Why do you think it's a step back?
I think it's just going to push more of the policies that he's pushed through Trudeau in the past, and they haven't really moved the country forward. So I think it's just going to be an ongoing struggle for Canada if he gets elected as Prime Minister. But more power to him. Maybe he's got some ideas in his back pocket somewhere, but I don't think so.
Okay. All right. Okay. What do you think of Pierre Poilievre and his style?
I think Pierre Poilievre is plain and smart. I think.
Okay.
I think, as you've had other people on your talk show have mentioned, that in past elections the Conservatives have come out with a bunch of ideas before the election, and then the Liberals have gone and implemented those ideas. I think that he's being rather coy at this point, and until there's an election called, he's not going to present his platform at all.
Yeah, there's a lot of that going on right now. Axe the tax. Well, they say they're going to axe the tax. Don't increase the capital gains inclusion rate. They say they're not going to do that either. Cut the GST on new homes. The Liberals want to do that now too. So he is, they are taking some of his ideas already. That's a good point that you raise. Justin Trudeau, 9 years of Justin Trudeau. What will you remember about Justin Trudeau as Prime Minister of Canada?
Well, here in the West, and I'm surprised nobody has brought it up before, but it's got to be no more pipeline. He did a great job of demonstrating why Canada can't build pipelines. Took a $5 billion pipeline and made it into $30 billion, or maybe it's $40 billion now. I don't know.
$35 billion. Yeah, $35 billion was the final price tag.
Yeah, and it's not a great pipeline. It helps, but it's not. It's not for $40 billion. We could have built a pipeline that could have taken all the oil and gas to Tidewater. But what he did do is create a path for future companies to build pipelines in this country. And that, unfortunately, that path is not east. Like, as much as the East is talking about pipelines, companies here in the West are not building pipelines west or east, or they're not building pipelines south either, which is what Trump has been spouting off about recently, is the Keystone Pipeline. Like, nobody here has any appetite for building pipelines to the U.S. Like, I don't know why he would think that. And nobody has any appetite for building a long pipeline all across the country when the shortest pipeline is the best pipeline here. Like, if we can get oil and gas to Tidewater, so be it. Anybody can buy it. If you want it, buy it.
Okay. All right. That's our time. We'll wrap things up there. Thank you very much for calling today. And you've taken us pretty much right to our news break. And we'll be back right after the latest breaking news with more of your calls. Federal politics, our topic of the day. Mark Carney, the new leader of the Liberal Party, Pierre Poilievre, will be in focus in the weeks ahead for sure. People talk about his style of politics. He could be prime minister 2 months from now. And the man who was prime minister for 9 years and 4 months and maybe a few more days, Justin Trudeau. What will you remember about Justin Trudeau's time as prime minister? Join the discussion after the news on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Well, it is certainly a busy time in federal politics these days. Mark Carney is the new leader of the Liberal Party. He'll become prime minister soon enough. What do you think of him? Is it a big change from Justin Trudeau? What would you say? What about the man who wants to be prime minister, Pierre Poilievre? What do you think about his style of politics? Too aggressive, too abrasive? Some callers today have said it's immature. They don't like the way he uses nicknames, one-liners, slogans, these kinds of things. Just asking what you think. And after 9 years and 4 months as Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau's time in that job is almost done, probably down to hours or days at the most. What will you remember about Justin Trudeau's time as Prime Minister of Canada? To Edmonton and Doug, you're on the air, Doug. Hi there. Thanks for calling, Doug. Can you hear me, Doug? Hi, Doug. There you are. Hi.
No, this is Guy from Calgary.
Oh, Guy from Calgary. Okay, Guy. All right, Guy. Let's go to Guy in Calgary, not Doug in Edmonton. All right, Guy.
No, I don't know Carney that well.
Right.
You know, he hasn't been around a lot. But Pierre, he's been around a bit.
Well, he's been around 20 years, yeah.
Yeah. You've had a caller that probably called in about 3 weeks ago or whatever that said it should be a job interview. They work for the Canadian people, right?
Right, yes.
So wouldn't it be nice if they just said, this is what I'm going to do, instead of coming into, like, if I had an employee that was wanting to get a job with our company and came in and said, are you going to hire that guy because of his suit? You know what I mean?
Right. Sure.
I would get rid of that guy right away. Right? Like, just if Pierre and both Carney would just say what they'll do for the country and stick to their word, and then everybody can make up their mind who to vote for.
Okay. You don't think either of them have done that yet, or?
Well, no. Carney says Pierre's a career politician, right? So he's basically just saying something bad about the guy that walked into the office with a bad suit, and then Pierre's saying to everybody it's carbon tax Carney, and say just be honest with the people of Canada and say this is what I'm going to do, and I'll stick to my word, and then let the people make up their minds.
Okay, well, we can all dream, I suppose. What do you think about Justin Trudeau's time as Prime Minister of Canada? What will you remember about
Donkey.
That time. Donkey. Wow. Why do you say that, sir? It's not very kind. Why do you say that?
He's absolutely destroyed this country. In the 80s, I was working down in the States. I'd spend 4 to 5 months down there, and I go down there quite a bit. And now I'm embarrassed to go down there.
Oh, really? Okay. All right. Thank you, Guy. Good to hear from you. Now let's try Doug in Edmonton. I believe we have Doug up next here. Hi, Doug. Are you with me?
Hello?
Hi, Doug. Yeah, hi, Doug. Is that you, Doug?
Yes. Thank you for having my call. First time caller.
Yeah, you're welcome. I appreciate that, Doug. What do you think about Mark Carney? Is he a big change from Justin Trudeau? He says
Rob,
he is.
Actually, I think he is. Looking at just a quick comparison, you have Justin. I like Justin. He was a man of the people, and whereas Carney has a vast background of education, but also experiences working with governments, working with different countries, especially on that financial, economic area. So I'm really excited to see what he can offer.
Oh, you're excited. Okay. All right. Yep. That's interesting. Okay. What do you think about Pierre Poilievre's style of politics?
Well, I'm not a fan. I do find him entertaining.
Okay. Fair enough.
Because I think as an opposition leader, it's a lot easier to pick apart the decision maker and how long it takes to do a decision and implement it, and then fine tune it along the way. So being in opposition is a lot easier than being the ruling party. However, I think that in the grand scheme, we're actually in a good place. I don't believe the rhetoric. I don't appreciate the ties to Trump and Poilievre reiterating the same comments. It's getting tiring. It's getting boring.
You think sometimes he sounds too Trumpy?
Oh, very much so.
Very much so. Okay, all right.
Yeah, being a far right that. And that's not my style. No. I'm more of a center or right of center, where I do believe in business, but we still have to take care of the people.
Fair enough. Okay. What do you think about Justin Trudeau's time as Prime Minister? What will you remember?
Turbulent. Very turbulent. Again, I like Justin. Sure. I think not all of his policies and decisions have been top shelf, like that they were just awesome. No, I don't agree with that statement. I think that with the pandemic, with the global crisis, there's financial crisis happening in every country. So to say that Canada is worse off, I don't think the people are really looking at that type of a statement objectively. They're just reiterating someone else's ideas. And Justin was well received, well respected throughout the international community. You can see that whenever he met male or female, he was always embraced by the leaders of other countries. Part of that's because of his dad's legacy. But I think that they saw him as a real person that you could approach, you could talk to. I don't think Poilievre is really on the same approachability level.
All right. Okay, pretty kind words for Justin Trudeau. You're in the minority on that one today.
Yeah, I know.
Doug, thank you, Doug. Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, great to hear from first-time callers. And we'll be right back with more of your calls coming up on Talkback here on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Let me just bring you up to date on a couple of things that we're watching. We're watching the markets. We're about an hour and 15 minutes away from the close of regular trading on both Wall Street and Bay Street, and the closing bell. I mean, it can't come soon enough. Markets are deep in the red. This right now, if things ended the way they're looking right now, this would be one of the worst days of the year, and it's been pretty bad. The Dow Jones Industrial Average right now down more than 900 points. Now, remember, the Dow's at 41,800. So it's a big number. It's still a loss of 2% on the day. The NASDAQ is really taking it on the chin, though. It's down 4.2% on the day. So that's a loss of 774 points for the NASDAQ. As for the Canadian market, I mean, it's one of the best performers of the day. And by that, I mean, it's down only 427 points, still a loss of 1.7%. And the loonie is slipping ever lower as the day goes by, 69.16 cents US. So down about another 40 basis points on the day for the Canadian dollar. But again, a better than 920 point loss for the Dow right now. As well, Mark Carney, who won the leadership of the Liberal Party yesterday and is about to be sworn in as Prime Minister of Canada, met with some news reporters, did a quick scrum with news reporters. Let's listen to a little bit of this. This is brand new from Mark Carney.
I just had a long meeting with the Prime Minister. We discussed the most important issues for our country, obviously including Canada and U.S. relations, issues of national security, and, yes, the transition between the Prime Minister and myself. That transition will be seamless and it will be quick. Finally, I, as you may have heard, just had a meeting with the caucus. There is tremendous energy in the Liberal caucus. As you saw last evening, this is a united party with full of energy to serve Canadians. With respect to President Trump, I'm not yet Prime Minister. His interlocutor is Prime Minister Trudeau, and I look forward to the opportunity.
When are you going to be sworn in? When are you going to be sworn in?
We will. As I said, I just spoke with the Prime Minister at length on issues around the transition. It'll be quick. We'll be coming back to you soon. The good news is that you will be seeing probably more of me than you want, and you will have other opportunities, and we'll be making an announcement on that.
Exactly. What did you tell caucus today?
What did I tell caucus today? So this is important. The first thing, I went to caucus today because you start as you mean to go on. And we are a Liberal team, and so it's incredibly important for me to hear directly from the members of caucus the concerns of Canadians on the ground, their priorities. As I said last night, they're the voices of their communities and they're the conscience of the party. There's tremendous energy in that group. We know this is a crucial time for our country. We're united to serve Canadians, and we will build this country.
Okay, so that was after Mark Carney's first meeting with the Liberal caucus. So that was on Parliament Hill, taking some reporters' questions from the press gallery right after that meeting, but no word on when he's actually going to be sworn in after a meeting today with Prime Minister Trudeau. Let's go to Khalil in Calgary. Hi, Khalil. Thanks for waiting there, Khalil.
Yeah, how are you doing? Thank you, sir.
I'm good. Yeah, you're welcome. Do you think Mark Carney's a big change from Justin Trudeau?
Well, yeah, in some accent, yes, because he has a financial background and he doesn't have a degree in education, so that's a big difference. And having that background, because right now, so we have a financial distress. We kind of in a verge of economic meltdown, and all those kind of things are happening. And you just actually told about the market conditions, the financial markets, the stock market, everything is in the red. So all of these things are actually, yes, it's I think in that sense, it's a big change. But overall, if you talk about the liberal policies and stuff, I don't see any big change in that because of the caucus and stuff. Yeah,
right, but you think it's a good thing for somebody with a financial background as opposed to say, an education background. Fair enough. What do you think about Pierre Poilievre? What's your take on him? What do you think about his style?
Pierre Poilievre, actually, when he started up, so if you remember in those days, so the Liberal government was not listening to the Canadian people, all of us, especially the middle middle class families. Why? Because everything was like going to the roof, like housing, cost of living, bills, everything else. And the way they were covering up was necessary that there was someone like from a position to talk about the grassroots problems, so the way he highlighted and the way he brought up, that created a lot of pressure on liberal government at that time. I think he did a great job in that sense that he brought up all of those issues which the liberals, they were trying to cover up under the carpet. So at that time they were ignoring maybe, or they were just because they had the worst financial I would say finance minister in history of Canada, because she only had I don't want to be disrespectful, but I mean because she only had a degree in Ukrainian studies and Russian studies, and I think he made her finance minister. So I think finance minister should be the most, just like Mark Carney. He could be a finance minister, not someone who didn't even have experience and education and proper resume for that job.
All right, very quickly, 30 seconds or less. What will you remember about Justin Trudeau's time as Prime Minister?
Justin Trudeau actually did some great things, for example, during the COVID, he did really a good management, especially he did manage the things very well. I think during the COVID, he did great for maybe people, they have a disagreement on, that mandate and all those things. But I mean, I'm talking about the management. And second thing, when the heat was high, when the stakes were high, when the divisiveness and hatred was the part of Canadian politics, he actually brought some very good ideas of Canadian is a Canadian. So that was, I think, two things he did well. Thank you.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
some more praise
Bye-bye.
for Justin Trudeau's time as Prime Minister. Be right back. Wind things down for the Monday Talkback here on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Not a lot of time left, but just enough time to fit Rob in, I believe, from Calgary, and talk about federal politics for the last few minutes here. Hi, Rob.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, Rob. You think Mark Carney's a big change from Justin Trudeau?
No, I think the only change might be is that Trudeau wore patterned socks and he might just wear black socks. Other than that, I think the two of them are cut from the same cloth, because they've really been one in the background from the other for the last two plus years. And if you listen to him through the Liberal leadership, he flip-flopped back and forth on one thing, the carbon tax, more than a fish thrown up on the beach. I'm going to do this. I think he will take the carbon tax. We'll never see it on our heating bills, our gas bills, when we buy gasoline. But he will just manipulate it in the back to slide it off onto the producers, so they'll increase, their cost and markup. So he is, to me, not to be trusted.
Not to be trusted. What do you think about Poilievre and his style, the way he handles himself?
Well, he's brought a lot of things out into the open that the Liberals were doing, and now they're trying to pick up on what he said, get rid of the carbon tax. No one likes it. So the only reason the Liberals were changing their tune was because of him, and they found that they were dumping in the polls. But if they get reelected, they're just going to go back to their old same ways. I mean, Carney is greener than Shrek.
Greener than Shrek. Okay. Right. Okay. All right. Let me ask you finally. 9 years, 4 months is a long time to be Prime Minister, and he had it longer than most. What will you remember about Justin Trudeau as Prime Minister?
Really quickly. Dress up in India.
Mr. Dress Up.
Okay. He set the tone for his whole 9 years, that he was a buffoon in there just thinking about himself. He said he was a feminist.
Right. Okay.
The first thing he did is get rid of 2 female cabinet ministers.
All right. Gotcha. Gotta go. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you for all your calls. Back with another Talkback tomorrow. More of your calls, new topics. Join us then. Very busy news day. Bring you right up to date. Coming up next on News Radio